Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the SempreMilan podcast. I'm your host, Ollie Fisher, joined once again by Anthony Torgrud.
I wish you weren't, but I'm here.
You don't have to be here if you don't want to be.
Oh, okay.
This is volunteer work, dog.
Yeah.
Although your probation officer will not be happy that you quit your volunteer hours.
What?
Probation officer. Is this community service?
Sometimes it
That's
feels
the way
like
I
it.
see it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're serving the community. We're serving
Yeah.
the community. Yeah, it's like counselling session after counselling session. But here we are.
Except
We've
you
got a
get
lot.
reamed in the comments, so it's like counseling session that needs more counseling.
Well, you can never have enough. You never have enough therapy. Good for the mind, good for the body and the heart. But yeah, that's what we're doing here. Got a lot to talk about. Got a couple of games to recap. The final game before Christmas to preview. And a lot else has been going on due to the results in those games and due to the climate that surrounds the club at the moment. So there is plenty to dive into. But before we do, thank you as always to our Substat founding members, Des Windsor McGlynn, Tito Matt, Moritz Pullman, Joey Gawler, Kevin MJ. Oh, he's not on anymore. I keep forgetting to cut it out. That's why I stuttered in the previous two episodes. But sorry, MJ. Get yourself back in. Do you know what, MJ? If you rejoin, I'm not going to put you at the bottom of the list. I'm going to put you where you were before. Luke Villano, Raul Escobar, Jack Calafassi, Nasser Merlin Finker, Derek Favretto, Havanli 13, Mike Schulz, JT Physio, Tarek, Marco Valea, and Roberto Racinos. Thank you for all the support you've been showing us over on the Substat. Reminder, holidays are coming up. You could gift the Milan fan in your life a Substat subscription if they like reading about negative press. On a serious note, though, we've been doing some stuff that we're quite proud of over there in terms of assessing the current situation that we're in. The most recent thing that got put out last night was from Isaac, and it was about how the 125th anniversary birthday party turned pretty sour, and we received some word on how Cardinale reacted to all the stuff that was going on, things we're going to discuss in this episode, but that's obviously worth a read. The pub chat that Lorenzo and Stefano did was a dive into what would happen if we didn't get top four. Obviously, that's the minimum requirement for the season. How catastrophic would it be if we failed to reach that minimum objective? The bonus podcast we did was 125 years and 125 problems. Went through Fonseca's post-Red Star rant. We went through Cardinale and the vendor loan situation. Went through D'Ottavio getting sacked as the sporting director. Kind of hit all three with one there. And AJ also showed off his 125 anniversary kit, which was nice. That was nice. And the newsletter was all around Fonseca's rant after the Red Star game. Again, we're going to talk about it a little bit. Brutal honesty. And there's one more thing as well about Cardinale potentially leaving the club because of the situation surrounding the repayment of his loan. If you might look for investors, if you might look for an easy out because things have not been as smooth as he might have hoped. Let's go. Let's start with the Red Star game. So I was thinking about potentially combining the Red Star and Genoa games into one, and we just turn it into like a big rant about what we didn't like from both games. But I actually think it's important that we talk about this one separately because it kind of set the scene for everything that has come over the last 72 hours. So we knew the mission: win, rack up 4 straight in the Champions League, and continue the surge towards the top 8 places. Red Star struggling. They had beaten Stuttgart 5-1 in their previous Champions League game and were on the tear domestically, but they'd been hammered by Barcelona and hammered by Inter. Me and AJ predicted that this would be a tough game. I even said that we weren't going to win. I predicted a 1-1 draw. I was pretty close to being correct, but ultimately not correct because we ended up snatching this one late on. Let's quickly go through what happened in the game. We took the lead in the first half towards the end of it after kind of labouring for a little bit. We didn't seem to have what it took to break them down, and you could feel the atmosphere getting more and more uneasy. But we did score a goal at a positive moment. Who scored it?
It was Rafa. It was a really nice over-the-top through ball assist from Fofana. Leao was perfectly onside and then just slotted it in from the edge of the box. But prior to the goal, I think you're skipping over the most important or the biggest key moment of the match was the 28th minute. We have 3 players drop: Loftus-Cheek, Musa, and Morata. Um, Musa says, "I'm good. I'll continue." Loftus-Cheek says, "No, I'm not." He's subbed off. And then about 20 seconds later, Morata says, "I'm not good either. Take me
Yeah.
off." You 2 of our 3 substitution windows for 2 players individually. Obviously, you get the additional subs there, and you use them in the same window. You only get 3. So yeah, we were down to 1 substitution window plus halftime after the 29th minute. The 2 players that came off, Morata and Loftus-Cheek, were 2 players we all didn't want to start anyways. We thought with Pulisic out, it didn't make any sense to, put a less attacking player in there, knowing that Moose was playing right wing when probably shouldn't have been doing that anyways. And then Morata just hasn't been at top form lately, even though he's scored a couple goals. But Tammy just offers a lot more. So that was what we were wanting. It's just a shame that it required injuries to have it happen, but it did. And then, within 10 minutes, we got that first goal. Obviously, none of the players coming on were involved in it, so it wasn't really responsible or because of them. But nonetheless, nice to see them get some minutes. And then obviously Tammy was the late hero, should I say, with Camarda having a looping header almost identical to the one that he scored that was offside in his first Champions League game. But it hit the crossbar, landed at Tammy's feet, and tapped it in. And it almost didn't go in because there was a lot of bodies in front of him, but got it. And it was, like you said, far more difficult than it needed to be. And Tomori got a suspension from the bench because he was 1 yellow card away from it, and he decided to yell at the referee from the bench and got that yellow card. The reason he was sitting out was so that he wouldn't risk suspension, and now he is
suspended.
That was a perfect synopsis of 90 minutes of boring Champions League football.
Yeah, the rest it wasn't a good game at all. Like
it's bad.
It was the least happy I've been after a win in a while, and then I remembered that I should be grateful for those because of the Genoa game this weekend. But we'll get there.
Yeah, I was not looking forward to this game. It was the first Champions League game I haven't looked forward to in a long time. And I'm going to sound like Pulisic fanboy, but it's because he wasn't playing, and I feel like without him, like we just don't look as, I don't know, like attractive attacking or on the attacking side of the ball. So, we still won 2-1, but you could tell that it was like much harder for us to get those attacking chances.
Yeah, it was like, I don't know. I can't sit here and be a hypocrite when I predicted that it would be a tough game against a team that have won all but one in the league. They score for fun. They just battered Stuttgart. Like they came with a bit of a free shot because they played at San Siro already earlier in the campaign and lost 4-0 to Inter. So they're probably like, we can't do any worse than that. I think it's really worrying the difficulty that was required for us to beat them. What worries me even more, and I gather worried Fonseca, is that we'd huffed and puffed at the door, tried to get through. We finally get through, and not exactly through a flowing team move or any kind of complex maneuver to break down the low block. It was just an inspired ball over the top and an even better touch and finish from Leao. That's where we come back to the theme of needing individual brilliance to get the better of teams rather than any kind of, positional play, smart movement, 1-2s, triangles, patterns. Like, it's none of that. It's just knock it over the top and hope that Leao can get on the end of it. But you do that, and then it's like, okay, right, we're in a positive situation now. We scored at a great time going into halftime. The injuries aren't ideal, and I understand that they'll have impacted the plans of Fonseca to manage the game from that point onwards. But still, we're going a goal up at the break, and it's like, right, we can invite them on a little bit now. The problem is that we don't seem to have a setting where we can soak anything up at all. We've spoken about being streetwise before and having kind of a setting where you can just put the handbrake down a bit and say, we don't need to go hell for leather and get a second goal here. It'd be nice to kill the game off on the counter, and that's what we're going to try and do. But we don't want to be caught in a situation where we're stuck with lots of men up the field. We don't want to be in a situation where, and this is what actually happened, We're trying to dribble it out from our own half, deep, back to goal. Musa turns into trouble, coughs the ball up in a very dangerous area. Radonjic, somebody we should know well, given that he was at Torino for a long time, just picks it up and he strides forward with it, absolutely unopposed. Nobody steps out to him, picks his spot. Yeah, it's a rocket of a shot. Fair enough. It needed a degree of accuracy to beat Maignan from that range, but what an awful goal to concede when you've got the game exactly where you want it. And it's just another sign that we're learning nothing. Players still capable of these ridiculous mistakes, but again, it feeds into the broader point of game management. We don't have any at all, none at all, and it was really frustrating. And at that point, I was almost ready to accept not winning the game because you kind of want us to learn a lesson and be like, you will keep coughing up points if you do this. And then when the late heroics happened, of course, you realise the magnitude of the goal and how close it pushes us now towards those top 8 spots, and that the finish line is very close in terms of getting an automatic spot in the last 16 in the Champions League. That's big, and I think that we probably need that given where we're heading in the league. More to come on that. But it was not a good... I mean, if I read you the stats, this isn't the game that I saw. Maybe you guys see it differently. Expected goals, 2.13 for us, 0.48 for them. 10 shots on target for us, 4 for them. 6 off target, 5 for them. 4 blocked shots, 0 for them. 52% possession, 6 corners to 4. I don't remember 10 shots on target. That implies that we peppered their goal. I mean, they had
feel
a
like
couple of good
Leao
saves.
had so many where he just ran up the wing and shot it right at the goalie.
Yeah, I think a lot of the
or something.
Yeah, a lot of the on target shots were, like Madison said, just straight at him. Like they weren't the best efforts. They count, but I don't know if 10. I mean, I remember immediately after the game thinking we could have had a few more, but also thinking the scoreline was about right for the overall performance of it. But in hindsight, after the Genoa match, I really can't remember all the shots. I know that's going to piss people off that I don't remember everything, but you'll survive, I promise.
I just briefly blanked on who scored the first goal, and it was actually a really nice one, so that says it all.
It was. It was one that he ran up the wing and actually did what he was supposed to do. Because
it was a good run
earlier in the game.
It was Pioli ball. It was exactly how he used to score, was individual brilliance on the left side or on the right when Pulisic was playing, and obviously he's out right now, but like that's what worked for us for the last 6 years. I know we're trying to learn this new system, but it's not working. So when we go back to what we were doing prior, it's ironic that Fofana was the guy who had the assist and he wasn't here prior, but like that's how we score. I say this all the time, maybe not all the time, but I've said it before. When a coach arrives at a new team, your system has to match the players you have. You don't try to convert your players to a new system. You create a system based on the tools you have. Like you're not building a house if you don't have the materials needed. You got to look at the Lego blocks and make what you can with it. So when you see a guy like Leao, you know what his strength is. It's beating people on the outside like that in the 1v1s or the 2v1s. Play that. Put it in the training. Say, okay, those long balls over the top when he's right on the line, that's when we score. We always have our success on the break like that. Do it. And then have the striker running down the middle. Have the attacking mid that you say we need to play with running to the top of the box. Remember, Loftus-Cheek got 10 goals doing that. He's not a good player, but he got 10 goals because of the system. It worked with the players. I don't know why we're trying to reinvent the wheel. It's
Yeah, but I mean, when you hire a new coach, it's because you need a new style of play because the old style didn't work, right?
Yeah.
So like
I think Pioli
that
had problems too.
Fonseca may have come in and tried to change it way too drastically instead of over a period of time, right? Because I don't think there's anything wrong with a coach who wants to implement his style of play because every coach is different, but you need to know how to do that.
Yeah, I just think
it's not just a switch.
A good coach has multiple systems, though. Like yes, you could be very successful with one and you can stick with it, but a good coach is able to adapt. Just like a good player is able to adapt to game situations, so should a coach. You shouldn't have to use the exact same system and formation and lineup for every single game because every game is different. The opposition's different, their style is different, their formation's going to be different. You should know what your system's weaknesses are and how to counter those. And you should be able to adapt. You should be able to teach your players how to adapt. And I just feel like we seem like we're trying to find out who fits where, and it's just not working. And we're coming up on Christmas here. You get a month of
Yeah.
that. You get a month and a half, 2 months max.
Yeah, you get a
But
grace period, but it's not infinite. Definitely
yeah,
not.
not
While
when
you're falling
you're
further
6
behind.
points outside of European spots. You're sitting in 8th. I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, like while all that's going on in the league, like it's hard to feel fully invested in this Champions League campaign for me anyway, which I know sounds strange, but it's like we're not even going to be here next year, so I can't get to it, I don't know, it's strange. And one thing I
well,
will say
6
about the Leao goal, I agree. I've said it was individual. It was a great pass, great touch, great finish, and that is all on the individuals involved. But at the same time, it came from another one of those new types of runs that we've seen Leao make. We've spoken before about how he's been playing much more centrally, making runs off the shoulder of the last man rather than hugging the touchline and trying to go 1v1 and beat players that way. That's good to see because it means that he's varying the ways that he can hurt teams. So that is one positive. But I agree, the general principle remains that it's like, if things aren't working, you just resort to knock it long for, and that's fine. Like, that's absolutely fine, because when other things aren't, the whole idea is that you're trying to build more, you're trying to vary your attacking weapons, you're trying to have two flanks, you're trying to have players down the middle who can hurt. But if sometimes it isn't clicking, then your main threat's still your main threat. And when you've got that explosive athleticism and when you've got the finishing that he sometimes shows, like he did in that instance, then I think that, yeah, you've just got to use it, haven't you? And I think we do miss Pulisic when he doesn't start, largely because he gets a goal contribution in every game that he plays, but also because he's the technical glue that holds the team together. Feels like the only one of the forwards at times who will get on the ball and like hold it for a bit, and wait for options to come into play rather than trying to flick it off first time or just not being in the game at all, as we've seen in the Genoa one. So, yeah, it was a totally incomplete performance. Yet another performance in the Champions League that's convinced me that we're not going any further than the first knockout game that we have to play, because there are better teams involved in it that are further along.
I think you're right with that. But does this season kind of give 06 vibes, where you're not going to be in it next season? Your only way to get there is to win it.
Maybe,
yeah, except we're not
going to win it, are we?
Yeah, we're not winning
it. I don't think we had quite the same team.
No.
But yeah, look, there's an interesting. I was talking to a mate of mine who's an Inter fan. I was sort of saying that I'm a little bit fearful that the season's opening up in a way where they could win it, because Man City are not the same animal they were last season. Arsenal have also suffered a drop off. Chelsea are not in the Champions League, and they're the main challengers to Liverpool, who have been brilliant, but they're still showing flaws. Drew 2-2 at home to Fulham at the weekend, for example. Then Bayern Munich, I just haven't been able to take seriously since last year, since Leverkusen just ran all over them. PSG, no. Real Madrid, we beat them. Barcelona dropped off a cliff recently. Atletico Madrid, you can't. So, like, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they become one of the contenders, Inter or even an Atalanta, because they're doing very well as well. They're in the top 8, and I'm just worried that
there is a world where after the next Champions League match day, we're second in the Champions
I know.
League.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Very crazy.
Yeah.
It's unlikely because there's a lot of teams above us, 11 in fact. But yeah, I don't know. I'm seeing a lot of hate for the format. I know you and I like it, but I'm seeing a lot of hate regarding just the exact thing that I'm excited about is the big jumps on the deadline day, or not deadline day, but you know what I mean. Decision day, final match day.
Decision day, I like that. Also, the way that it's going with so many unexpected teams in that middle 16, I don't think we're going to get an easy game in the last 16 if we were to finish top 8. We could very easily run into a Real Madrid or a Man City just because of where they're performing at so far. So take nothing for granted, but we just got to keep doing what we're doing. We were handed an easy schedule. We'd only moan if we didn't take advantage of it. So at least we are racking up the points still. A reminder, Girona at home and Dinamo Zagreb to come to finish. Top and flop, and then we'll close this one out. For me, the flop was Teo. It's easier to start with that because we know what came after that with the benching against Genoa and the criticism of the attitudes of certain players. We won't go deep on Fonseca's comments because we did that in the bonus pod. Go check that out if you haven't already. If you really want to listen to what we said about Fonseca, we kind of picked apart the key lines of his rant after the game. You could try a week for free on Substack, so do that. And then top for me, I'll go with Leao. Nice goal.
Yeah, Leao definitely top. I don't know if I want to pick Teo for flop. I didn't think his game was that much worse than the rest of the squad, to be honest with you. Obviously he got the yellow card, but I can't think of any other moment where I was like, Teo, what the fuck are you doing? And typically I have
the
those.
answer's Musa. The answer's Musa because he gave the ball away for the goal.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I got it
couldn't
wrong.
think of it
Yeah.
either.
Yeah,
I'll go
I
Musa.
got it wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the answer. Put the entire game in jeopardy. And do you know what? They had 15 minutes after equalising where I thought they were the team that were going to go on and score again.
Yeah.
It was really, really bad. And yeah, I don't know. Move on. Better game now, though, eh? Better game now. Genoa, oh, Maddie's back. Had to sort the dog out. Fair play. Welcome back. We're about to talk about something really, really positive now. So,
great.
Got your birthday hats on? Anyone? No?
I got a little birthday trinket here that
yeah.
it's not doing too well.
Yeah.
That might, in fact, I'm gonna turn that away from me on the desk here.
It turned you over the edge. Right, where to begin with this one, eh? Right, so we'll start with the pre-game festivities, which were actually pretty good, pretty enjoyable, I thought.
Wouldn't know Paramount didn't want to show it. They showed
Oh, right.
parts of it without audio. They had the studio people who I won't slander because I like them all, but they had them talking over the festivities and just showed parts of it. And I'm like, guys, like you want to give me match analysis right now? I'm trying to watch the show. Like the one thing that's gonna make me forget about the game that's upcoming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For once, we do not care about your pre-match insights. It's like
It wasn't even positive because the team's
yeah.
not positive right now. Neither team was positive, so it was just like negative all around. And I'm trying to watch the concert, the light show, the legends coming out, and they kept cutting back and forth every 10 seconds with no audio. It's very frustrating. So Paramount, if you're listening, don't do that next time. Just show the thing in the field.
Next time, 130.
5 years from now,
5 years,
the
please
rights,
don't do
probably not. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. To summarise, an hour before kickoff, they brought out a number of club legends. They basically rolled out like a red carpet on the pitch and lined them up. But the main event was 3 players being inducted into the new Milan Hall of Fame. There's already an original, but they seem to decide the rebooting it with an Emirates sponsorship. Fair enough. It was 3 strikers this time. We tried to guess them in the last episode, and we got one of them wrong. It wasn't Zlatan.
I thought Baresi was in.
Baresi got inducted in the first round. He was the first member to be inducted. Okay. And then for this game, they announced they were inducting 3 strikers. Yeah. And we thought Zlatan would be an absolute shoo-in because he's there and he works for the club. It wasn't. And I think even he knew he couldn't be in it. Instead, it was Marco van Basten, Pippo Inzaghi, and Andrei Shevchenko. Unfortunately, Sheva couldn't be there due to prior commitments. But yeah, they were honoured. They got like a trophy, which was made in partnership, in conjunction, whatever, with Tiffany. So it's solid silver, be worth a few pence, I reckon. And then there was like Van Basten with Hullet and Rijkaard out there on the field. We saw Pato, Seedorf, Tassotti, obviously Baresi. Big parade of legends. That was great. A lot of them got a fantastic, well, they all got a fantastic reception. And then there was like a DJ playing music. And then there was a 3-tier display, which was absolutely brilliant. There was like a version of the crest that we wore on the special shirts at one end, 125 in the middle, something at the other end. It was fantastic. A lot of planning must go into those kind of things. It was a great little table setter for what was meant to be like a nice routine home win against Genoa to begin a little climb up the table. Didn't happen, boys. It didn't happen. We were no bueno. No bueno at all. I don't even know where you could probably even skip to the second half for this because nothing really happened at all apart from 2 glaring misses.
Yeah. Did Leao have a shot that missed in the first half? I can't remember if he had any, to be honest. I feel like Tammy did. He maybe missed a shot. in the
Tammy
first
had
half?
one where he got put in on the right side of the box and he dragged it wide of the far post.
Mhm.
That wasn't long before he had to come off at halftime due to getting kicked. Apparently, he got pretty
Mm.
heavy bruising, so he came off for
Okay.
Morata at halftime, which proved to be an absolute
Yeah. So
catastrophe.
then I do want to give. I'm not going to give Fonseca any credit, but I didn't know that Tammy was off because he was hurt. I thought that was
Mhm.
a tactical decision, and I was fuming. I was losing my goddamn mind. I was like, this guy Morata was subbed off in the last game, the 29th minute to injury. Why is he coming on at halftime? Going to offer much less. Tammy's a better striker. And okay, now that at least makes some sense, especially with the Camarda sub later on. But
Yeah.
yeah, that okay. So
Can we rewind a little, actually, because I totally
yes,
forgot about the 5 changes to the starting lineup that were made. The main headlines with that being, obviously, false changes in attack with Musa and RLC down
Mhm.
injured. Samu comes in on the right, and Mattia Liberali comes in at playmaker. And then, in addition to that, obviously, he's a teenager, and then you got another teenager, Alex Jimenez from the Futuro, playing at left back over Teo, who was benched. And fully benched. He didn't come on at all during the game. So you've got 2 of the kids starting there, and that is what actually made me a little bit excited for this game. I was like
yeah,
genuinely excited to see how 2 of the biggest talents got on, and I thought this could be a kind of game where, because we've seen with Vieira's Genoa since he arrived, that they're very much defend first, and we saw that again. They played 3-5-1-1. I thought this is a game where Jimenez isn't going to be asked too much of defensively. Liberali is going to be able to operate in tight spaces, but I think we could see something with him. And it just made me excited for what we might see in the game, because it should be attack versus defense. It should be us on the front foot, and that's where these players can actually get a chance to show what they're made of. I don't think either of them had a bad game, I'll be honest. In fact, I think Jimenez was probably our standout performer.
yeah. I
Um,
thought they both actually did fairly well. Liberali did a lot of things that aren't going to increase the sofa score at all, but a lot of things that were nice to see. Pirouettes, making those line cutting passes, holding the ball when needed, looking for options. It just seemed
Winning a
like he made.
penalty that wasn't given,
Yeah, oh, forgot about that.
but then
Um,
giving one away that wasn't given.
yeah, that
The Lord
was
giveth and taketh away.
yeah, which is probably fair. If you're not going to give us the one, then don't give it to them either. But if I was a Genoa fan, I would have been pretty upset that that didn't get given.
Mm.
Was upset that the first one wasn't given either. But regardless, I thought he overall did well. You could tell that he's a 17-year-old, right? He doesn't have
Yeah,
the strength to really do it all. He got out muscled a few times, and he had, I want to say there was like a good opportunity for a header like inside the box or something, and it was just very weak, probably because he just isn't strong enough as a 17-year-old, and that's okay.
yeah.
But it did show that there is a player there, and that if he continues down this path, he's gonna have a future at the highest level for a decent amount of time, probably.
Hmm.
But yeah, I was happy with Liberali. Um, I thought it made sense to bring Camarda on later on and do the 2 striker because we needed a goal. Um,
Yeah.
so
And
I
we
had no issue with
resorted
that.
to crossing.
I thought Jimenez was really good as well, and to be honest, I wouldn't be shocked if he starts again over Teo. I would prefer, this might be crazy,
Hmm.
Teo Jimenez. Throw Jimenez on the right wing or right back. Can he take over there? I don't know. I mean, I feel like he was originally a right back at some point, right? Or we played him there or something like that. I know he could do both flanks, though. Correct?
I think we did play him there at some point, but I think that was under Pioli, who actually tried things like that.
Yeah, he didn't try the youth too often though. But um, yeah, I mean, I look. The weakest link is Emerson. Why not try it? I get that Teo, you got to punish him or whatever, do your thing. Hope that it works the same way it worked for Liao. Um, but let's try both. You know,
Emerson had the highest rating on FootMob.
What is FOTMob, man? What are these metrics?
Probably Americans.
Yeah, I don't know. So I found it interesting because Jimenez and Liberali came into this game in like entirely different moments or like patches of form, shall we say.
Mm-hmm.
Liberali had kind of been ferried between the Futuro and the Primavera because he'd played a bit for the Futuro, but was struggling. He was struggling with the physicality of the league, and he was struggling to keep pace. And Bonera actually said, "Go try a few games with the Primavera." Obviously, we'd seen him in pre-season, and I think a few people were shocked that he actually got relegated from Serie C back to the Primavera. But you get games with the youth league and things like that, so it's useful for development still. Whereas Jimenez stood out in Serie C with the Futuro because he looked way too good for the level. Like he just looked a class above, and many have said that. Opposing coaches have even said that. He came into it, and what I really liked about his performance, and it's almost in direct contrast to Teo at times, is that he did absolutely everything with 100% effort. He literally, we've kind of seen it from him before, where he's maybe gone in a bit too rash, and it happens. It happens. He's young, he's energetic, and he wants to prove a point in the limited minutes that he's going to get. But yeah, he did absolutely everything with full intensity at both ends of the field. I actually thought he was really good at recovering the ball on the defensive end. Very, very good in driving forward with it, with the dribble. He combined nicely with Leao on a couple of occasions, including one a nice little back heel flick in behind that I thought could have led to something more. Made some runs inside, just like we got used to with Teo. And he also showed that he wasn't frightened to let fly from distance. He tried a couple of shots from outside the box. Granted, didn't go anywhere near.
Yeah, I don't like that actually, but
he had the confidence though, and I like that because we'd only shout if a player gets into a good shooting position and doesn't try it because it means they don't back their own ability. I liked it. It was a display of someone who's like, this ain't my first rodeo, even though it was his first Serie A start. So.
Yeah, I mean, this is like that. That's why you play the talented youth players, right? Like, you compare and contrast Teo and Jimenez. I think of it almost like a very successful prize fighter, like a high end boxer, MMA guy, like a guy like Conor McGregor. He was coming up, he was dirt poor, killing everyone, making a name for himself. Then he's at the top, right? He's made the tens of millions, and now he's just kind of washed. He's drinking on his yacht. He fights every 3 or 4 years, gets his ass beat, doesn't really care anymore. He's making a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Now bring that back to this, and it's like, okay, you have guys like Teo, and I'm not saying they're comparable, but Teo, who has won everything. He has a Champions League. He didn't really participate, but he's won a Champions League. He's won a Serie A title. He's won things. He's made a lot of money. He's pretty comfortable in his career, right? He's realized his dream of being a pro and winning trophies and making a lot of money. He's got a family. He's got a wife. He's got kids. He has a very good, comfortable life. Things get tough. Whatever. Jimenez is a young kid who's hungry, who has those dreams, who hasn't realized them, who wants to show that he's worth it, who's given an opportunity to displace a champion, and he's thinking, this is my chance, I'm taking it. And that's why you get those performances out of the kids. And it's not always going to work out. And I've been a big not hater, but anti playing youth a lot of times. But in this specific situation, it made perfect sense given Teo's form and knowing that we do have a talent in Jimenez, because he's another guy who came from Real Madrid just like Teo Hernandez. So yeah, I'm all for it. You saw it with Camarda. There was a long ball over the top that was too far for him, but he pushed himself. He sprinted. He put in that next gear instead of, like we've seen Leao and everyone else do, just kind of stop back and go, it's too far. I'm not going to get it. You saw Camarda bust his ass, get it, and he kept it in. It didn't go anywhere, but he kept it in. He crossed it back in. Like, that's what you want to see: the drive, the passion, the determination, the willpower to go forward and make something out of nothing. And you get it from the kids who care. That's why the successful teams implement the academy players, because they have that dream, they want it, and they care more than the guys who are comfy sitting there on their paycheck, knowing that they're going to get $5 million this year, whether they finish 20th or first. That's the difference.
Lovely.
Well put. One of the things that I did agree with that the Curva Sud did last night when the gate crashed the 125th birthday party, and we will speak a little bit about that, is chanting, "We want 11 Camadas," because that's what they want. They expect the bare minimum is effort, right? The bare minimum is to just put everything on the field. And we've had the impression that hasn't been the case always. In this particular game, I actually don't want to fault the effort of the team, and that worries me more because I feel like we're just running about like busy idiots without much of a clue how to. Just this thing of like we resort to crosses. If it's not happening for us, 20 minutes left, 2 strikers on, pump balls in the box. If it had worked, we'd have talked about a stroke of genius. When it doesn't work, you've got Okafor coming on for a 15-minute cameo and sailing them over everyone's head into the crowd. It's like, what the fuck is going on with the execution here? It was way off. It was a very imprecise performance. It was laboured when we needed to step it up. First 60 minutes, when the game's there for you to take control of because Genoa are not going to really do anything, that's when you've got to do it. And then when it comes to the panic stations of the last 20 minutes, realising the magnitude of more dropped points, that's when any kind of what am I looking for? I don't know. It became very everything was wrong. The execution was wrong. We weren't composure. That's the word I'm looking for. All composure went out the window. It was like, let's get it to the flanks and knock it in and hope for the best. There was one right towards the end when we won a corner and we decided to do routine. We just passed it around the edge of the box.
Yeah, that was very
And then went
frustrating.
back, and the fans lost their shit. And then he finally got it to Okafor, cross over everybody's head. And I remember thinking, yeah, that's going to be the memory from that game.
Yeah,
that's what we were. Yeah,
I think you touched on a very good point about not faulting the team's effort in this one, and that's a good thing, right? You always want the effort. I could be wrong in this. Someone fact check me because I don't know, but I don't think there's ever been a team to score in every single game in a season before, right? You're always going to have that one game where you blank.
Yeah.
And as long as the effort's there and you can tell they're trying, they're working hard, they're not giving up on things, not getting dejected, not losing their heads, then you're like, okay, it is what it is. We just had a tough one. The problem is when that game follows the season that we're having and we're losing and we're dropping points and it's happening week after week after week. Then the issue is like, okay, your effort's not good enough. You need to give us more. You need to find it. Is that the coach? Is that the system? Is that the players? Probably a mix of it all. And that's why there's so much hate towards the management right now. And it's hard to argue against that. But
yeah,
here we are.
Yeah, we've failed to score in 3 of our last 4 home Serie A games for the first time in a long time. That's not good, obviously. And I think it's 8 out of 15 league games this season we've scored 1 goal or less. So even though it feels like the attack has not been the problem, and we've been bemoaning the defensive record for large parts of the season, it's kind of evening itself back out because we can't score goals in bunches like we used to, 2s and 3s. And now we've got the 5th best defence in the league out of nowhere, which still isn't good enough. Obviously, to be in the top 4, you need to have a Champions League level defence. And I still don't really think we're there with that. But it feels like we can't have both. In pursuit of balance, we've actually lost both edges to our game, which was being able to outscore opponents, but also letting in goals at the other end. And that means we've now sort of been sucked into these boring games. The Juve game, terrible watch. Napoli felt like we weren't going to score if we played another 30 minutes. Leao actually said we could have played another 30 minutes against Genoa and we weren't going to score. He also said in that same interview, it feels like we are starting to get the coach's ideas a bit. It's been 5 fucking months. What do you mean you're only just starting to get them?
I think he's trying to remain positive, right? I think he's being a captain.
Yeah.
He's trying to say like, yeah, we're getting it. It's coming along, but you're right. It's 5 months in. You mentioned the attack, so I looked. It is 8 games with 1 goal or less this season in the league. There's more if you count Champions League. We are tied with Napoli for 6th best attack in the league right now. The difference is Napoli's in 2nd and we're in 8th. So there's that. They're 12 points above us. That means their defense is better and ours isn't.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then you've got someone like Juve who have obviously drawn 10 of 16. They're unbeaten, but they can't fucking score to save their lives. So,
and they have
like, they're almost. That's mad. Get fucked.
Makes you think.
It does make you think. Yeah, Motorball. Yeah, that's where we were. What was I going to say? I was going to say on Liberali. I thought he grew into the game. There was some shades of, I put it in the chat, there was some shades of Brahim Diaz about his performance, and people are going to be like, He wasn't that bad, and what I mean by that is just like in the mold of player that he is. Short in stature, quick in the turn, low centre of gravity, operated in the right half space mostly, so just in the triangle that the Genoa midfield left. But I think that I think he'll get easier assignments than that, to be honest, because he came up against Frendrup, who leads virtually every defensive category for midfielders in Serie A, and Milan Badel, who is 35, knows the league incredibly well, and was probably just tasked to sit on him and make things difficult for him. So yeah, he'll get easier games than that, but the minutes were positive. Morata, couple of sitters spurned. The first one was more difficult than the other one, and I actually liked his touch back inside onto his left foot. Defender went flying and thought, just hit this low and hard. Hit it low and hard, forced the keeper into a save, maybe generate a rebound, tries to curl it with his left foot into the top left corner, goes, nowhere near the goal, really. But the second one.
It is like watching Giroud, but way more frustrating.
He's a younger, much worse Giroud.
Yeah,
that's what it is. We replaced Giroud with the shittier version of Giroud. We got Arsenal's Giroud to replace
Giroud would have at least scored one or two of those.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I was screaming, honestly, by the third one in like the 80-something minute. I ripped the blanket that I had. I was sitting all cozy on the couch. I was starting to lean forward, screaming, and I just fucking ripped it like I got this blanket here, and I was so pissed. My girlfriend's like, "Hey, you got to stop with that." But
you got a problem.
You actually ripped the blanket?
Yeah, dude, I was screaming. I was so mad. It's just like
that's quite impressive, I'd say.
That is actually very impressive. I'm pretty impressed.
I can't say that word, but I have a certain type of strength, only reserved for people with lower mental capacity.
The second one bad. Like, you got, again, hit it low. Why are you trying to smash it into the roof of the net? If you hit it low, the keeper ain't getting down for it. Don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get it. I thought it was terrible. I don't know. It's just a symbol of our season, isn't it, really? And then the jeers at full time said it all. That's when the protests really began. There was some chants against the management. There was a chant against the owner. The "We Are Not Americans" thing, which has made it to America. I've been told CBS did a report on it or something.
Oh, did they? I actually did.
I haven't read it myself, but that's what's been said. I think it was like that line in particular. I don't think it was particularly helpful, but I don't think they were saying it in like a "we don't like Americans" thing. I think they're saying we're not American, like we're not an American sports franchise. You can't run us that way. We need more.
Yeah,
there's no salary cap. There's no and some people took it like, well, fucking Pulisic, and but I agree the phrasing was probably clumsy because of that. You took it like that. Actually, that's what jogged my memory. But no, you understand it at least, and some people have taken it like it's racist, and it's like, I don't think it's racist.
It's definitely not.
No, I think if you understand the concept of how Americans run their teams in Europe, you'll understand it just fine. It is also on CBS Sports. I just looked it up. It says AC Milan Ultras chant, "We are not Americans."
Yeah, that's funny. Well, I mean,
love that.
What they're saying is basically exactly what you just said. Is when you look at an American sports franchise here, is like you said, there's salary cap, there's budgets, there's all these things, there's profit sharing with the league. Shit gets financed from the state, like the taxpayers contribute. Every sports team, or not every, but most sports teams in America make money because of the way sports are. They're sports entertainment in the U.S. Like, it's totally different.
There's
so when you bring
also
that
zero risk because
there's zero risk.
Your place in the league next season.
And when you do the worst, you get the best draft.
Money to compete.
You get rewarded for being bad.
Exactly. So in Europe, you bring that
Maybe that's
over.
What we're trying.
It doesn't work.
Draft lottery. We're going for the Serie A draft lottery.
Right.
Yeah. Can't wait for that. It's frustrating in that aspect because they're saying, hey, we don't have that mentality, guys. Like, you got to run us the way we do it. Yeah, Elliott won a Scudetto and they're American, and yes, our best player is American, but that's not what they're mad at. They're mad at Redbird running the club like it's an American sports franchise that has no incentive to win a trophy because they're going to make the same amount of money, win or lose. It's not how it works in Europe. It's not how it works in soccer in general. And that's what they're mad at. And I agree with them. It shouldn't be that way. I gave it a chance. I thought, yeah, it makes sense. It might work. And I do think it's had some success. It's just failing right now. And the time to go big was this summer. And we saw that we weren't going to do that when they appointed Fonseca and some of the signings that they made. It said that that's where they're at. And yeah, so I agree.
Yeah,
look, it worked. It works for Liverpool, right?
Yeah, I think the difference is the operating budget in the Premier League is going to be triple, if not more.
Yeah, but we should be able to compete with Serie A teams. If Liverpool's able to compete with Premier League teams, we should.
And I think we can. That's the frustrating part. Is I look at our team, and I don't think we're the 8th best team on paper. We're probably not the best team, but at least second or third. At worst,
second last season.
Yeah, so I think on paper we do have the team to compete, and the pieces we plugged into it were not the right pieces to improve it. I think they're holding us back. I think the coach is not the right coach. Find me one person over the summer that said, "Hey, I think we should appoint Fonseca." No one said it. It came out of left field.
Fonseca's agent.
Well, I don't think. I think even he was caught off guard. He's like, "Wait, really?
Waiting for West Ham."
Why are you calling me?
There's something interesting, and I was listening to something earlier because I know this is a weird comparison to make, right? But just hear me out with it. So this is an extreme example, but over here, in the Premier League, Southampton have just sacked Russell Martin. Now that's like a bit of a strange case because he made it clear from the day that they were promoted to the Premier League that he was not going to be changing his way of playing. And his way of playing is passing out from the back. They have to go back to front. They do it with triangles, 1-2s, combos, all that kind of stuff. But they play it on the ground from back to front. And it's like what you were talking about earlier, AJ, about only having one setting and not having a plan B, and perhaps it not fitting the players. What Southampton, with their inferior squad to almost everybody else in the Premier League, learned is that you can't do that without coughing the ball up a lot in your own half. And the amount of goals they've conceded, the games they've fallen apart in. Yeah, they fell apart and they decided to pull the plug on it. But Russell Martin, as a manager, throughout said, "I'm not changing. I don't see the point in changing. I got us promoted this way. If I was to turn around to my group of players at this point in the season and say, I don't believe in what I was telling you anymore, we're going to change it," then he would lose, because managers only have to be loyal to themselves, right? Unless they're attached to that club in some particular way. Really, they have to be loyal to themselves and to their beliefs in the way of playing and to their reputation. But instead of adding a bit of pragmatism and trying to just limit the areas where Southampton were clearly limited, he just lent into it even more. It's cost him his job.
Yeah, it's naive and stupid, to be honest. To say what got you promoted is what's going to keep you up in the Premier League. Look, people get found out. If doing the same thing every year worked, then you would never have a new title winner in any league. It'd be the same team always. But they figured it out. It's going to work every year. Just keep doing the same thing.
No, wait, is that why Everton keep on finding themselves in a relegation battle? Because they keep on doing the same thing every year?
Yes, exactly.
Come on, Daichi.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm kind of sad about the Martin thing. I don't care about Southampton particularly, but it's like it feels like common sense has won, and I feel like football becomes a more boring sport when common sense wins all the time. Like the whole point you love it is because of the unpredictable storylines and stuff. And I kind of wanted it to work, but it hasn't worked. Anyway, circling it back round to Fonseca, could be witnessing a similar kind of thing where. Not in terms of playing out the back from back to front and all that kind of stuff, but just having this one way of playing that he's determined to stick to, and the idea that it is taking quite a long time to get into the players' heads, but also the idea that technically we might be nowhere near good enough to do it. Like, I think the average technical level in the squad is not very good. It's just not very good. When you're lining up for a game with Morata up front, Leao on the left can show his technical ability and sometimes just looks awful. RLC is an attacking midfielder. Musa is the right winger. Reinders is the most technical player in the squad most of the time. you just see everybody capable of doing something wrong, making an error, bad first touch, that kind of stuff. I just think that perhaps this is the right man or even the wrong man, but it's just the wrong time. Like, it wasn't the right. Fonseca may be a very good coach. He may be. He may turn out to go on and do great things, However, I just don't think that it's a particularly successful marriage at the moment, and I'm losing faith, and I think he's losing runway to be able to turn it around. Because what we can hang our hat on, what we have been able to hang our hat on previously, is a performance like the derby, performance like against Real Madrid, where it's like, shit, this might be one in every 3 or 4 games, but we're seeing a level that's way higher than anything we had last season, and we're able to beat the best teams. But now we seem to have settled into a cycle that's even worse, where we're not generating any real excitement, 6-1 against Sassuolo in the cup don't count, man. Like,
yeah, I forgot about that game actually.
I think it's hard. Like, it's hard to get mad at him when he's not getting the support that he needs, though. Right?
It might be that, yeah.
I mean, he has a team of professional players. There's attitude issues, like, that also falls on him because the players don't like see him as their leader, I guess you could say. So, like, there's a lot of issues that are going unresolved. Some are him and some are higher than him.
Oh yeah,
I agree with that. There are 23 league games left for Milan. It's entirely possible that Leao is right, that the team is finally now in December understanding the ideas, and maybe we go on a post-January run like we did with Pioli during COVID, during lockdown, and we win, most of the games, and we do finish top 4. But I don't see that happening. I think it's a rough one. Something crazy has got to happen, and even then, it's still frustrating because if your ideals work at that point, it should not take this long because, like we just talked about with Southampton, it won't work next year. You have to evolve because if you do it right and you go on this crazy run for half a season, I guarantee you the teams at the top, the Contes, the Inzagis, the Gasperinis, they're watching film. They will figure you out and we'll be in the exact same position next year. So your ideals got to work early. I don't care if we kick it in and we finish 4th place on the last day. That's great. Obviously you want Champions League, but you came into the season saying the Scudetto was the target. If it takes you till December to put your ideas on the team, it's not good enough.
It's a high pressure job. You like Fonseca's spoken of the privilege of feeling the pressure of coaching Milan, and then it quickly changed to like the burden of it. In his press conference, talking about how difficult he's finding it and stuff. And I think, I don't know, it just seems to be wearing everybody down. And Maddie's right. The problems are higher up. He arguably shouldn't have even been put in this position, but yeah, it just feels like a relationship that's constantly strained between everybody and the fans. But in fact, let's just quickly wrap up Genoa. Man of the match for me, Jimenez. Flop of the match, Morata. Any disagreements?
Yeah, I echo that.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, the fans this is where I was coming on to with the protests. The fans have reached breaking point now with it, and I think that they deliberately chose to make their voices heard in this game in particular. Because of the occasion that it was, and knowing that it would generate headlines, and it has. Chance against the ownership, as mentioned, but then they crashed. I say crashed. They waited outside the 125th party, private party that was being held for club staff and for players. They chanted against certain players: Teo, Calabria, Tomori, Morata, even Leao, RLC. There were a few players who got chants against them. A few got
I didn't
support.
take it as Leao getting jeered. I took it as like a, hey, Leao, get out while you can, save yourself.
Did you take it that way? Because I did mention that in the chat. Like, it's just the phrase "turn around and fuck off" is pretty. It's pretty abrasive, Like,
I don't think it as get out while you can. It means turn around. Hey, fuck you.
So I like the show some balls thing because I think that's fine. I think that's generic enough, and it's like, come on, we're here showing you how much we care. show us your heart. We want 11 Camadas. I like it. Pulisic was clapped. They didn't do anything for Fonseca, which I thought was interesting. They didn't jeer or cheer him. So I think that shows that like they're supportive of his methods, but the results aren't there yet. Fair enough.
I think their main issue is the ownership and the management.
Oh, yeah. Do you want to talk about where the management were? Sneaking in through a fucking side door. Thoughts?
It's certainly not the lion thing to do, to take the cowardly way out, right?
A little kitten. Couldn't face it, could he? Yeah.
And
I think
the owner, nowhere to be seen, missing, but the previous owner was there. Yeah.
It's like
the Arsenal fan was there.
Not going to your wife's Christmas party, but her ex-husband goes or something, right? Like, or
it's
ex-boyfriend, or like, what is that bullshit?
Yeah.
So Gordon Singer, to be fair to him, like I think has remained close to everything. He's still on the board of directors. He's been at certain games. He was at the Madrid away game in the Champions League, for example. There were reports at the time of the sale that were saying that Gordon Singer, who grew up an Arsenal fan, so it doesn't really have that kind of attachment to us, but he'd become like really emotionally involved in the project and stuff, and was actually quite sad that it was going, but happy to stay on. That the club was passing over. I mean, so like I guess he's a well-known figure, and him being there doesn't necessarily bother me too much. But it's when you weigh it next to the absence of exactly. It's how it looks. And the official line that came out was that Cardinale wasn't at either event because he didn't feel like it was right to share the stage with people who've actually written the club's history, as in like. No spotlight on me, like I haven't done anything yet. I don't know, like I feel like a comment to clarify that would have been important. I think a statement, even put a statement out saying, do some PR bullshit about it's the 125th anniversary. I'm not going to be here. I'm going to leave the stage to those. I just think the whole thing is like we're left guessing. We're left guessing if the owner cares about us or not.
Mm-hmm.
And as for the management,
I
my
understand
God, man.
what he's saying about, let the people who wrote history be there. I think that's great. But you own the club. You're also writing history, whether it's good history, bad history, new history, or old. You're writing history.
But also, you need to show face, right? Like, exactly. Interact with your leadership team. Interact with the club legends.
Speak to the club legends and ask them what made the club so great before.
Yeah.
Use it as a networking opportunity.
What would you like to see next from the club that I own that you love? Like, do something. You can show up and even say, this night is about the people who have written the history before me. This isn't about me, but be there. Say something. You own.
But I'm excited to contribute.
Yeah, exactly. Like
my name is somewhere.
When was the last office Christmas party you went to that didn't have the head honcho of the company around? Like that's ridiculous.
You can't write new pages in history when you're not even holding a pen. You know what I mean?
And the thing is, it's not like he just found out about it. This thing has probably been planned
maybe did
for 125 years.
Yeah. 125 years they've been saying, okay, this is the one.
Like
yeah. Anyway,
with the way he spends money, that they had to get approval to throw a party.
Well,
at least it probably
Man United
Christmas party. It was sponsored, so they probably made money.
Yeah, that's probably true.
In the Man United Christmas party, instead of giving staff a cash bonus, they gave them Marks and Spencer's food vouchers. That's like the kind of shit that we're heading towards.
Did United actually do that?
Oh yeah, and they've sacked a load of staff, including the old tea lady or something. It's got a bit weird there. I really the thing I feel strongest about, and the whole thing I think was really, really close to the line from the Curva, if not a bit over it, because I think you can chant in the stadium. I think you can chant outside the stadium. The players will have received that. They'll know all about what's going on. To show up there is another thing. And I think to be sort of 30 yards away when players are there with their families is a little bit close to the bone for me. However, I understand the flip side of it. These are players that have paid very handsomely for the pressure that they're put under, and it's a party ultimately, and the fans have shown up and said, what are you celebrating? We're a joke. So I do see both sides to it, and I know that football culture works different in Italy and anywhere where ultras are involved. They do not give a shit about boundaries. They will make you feel uncomfortable.
But also, their families go to the games. They know what the ultras are all about. So it's not like, who are these crazy people with flares singing go fuck yourself.
What it was for me was, right, Liao arrived with his partner, who I gather it's her first public outing. I've not seen her before, but they've just given birth. She's just given birth a few weeks premature to twins. And like they've gone out to this event, and 30 yards away, there's a group of like hooded men chanting "Turn around and fuck off." That was just made me a little uncomfortable. I just thought that's a little bit intimidatory. Like we don't need it. And you can shake your head all you want. You agree with me. You don't
No,
think
I
that's
disagree.
you don't think that's normal behavior. Like
No
one shows up to your
ultras
job and
and
tells you you're shit.
well,
Well, they
you'd be
have actually.
surprised.
Never
Actually.
mind. Never mind. I take that back.
No,
But I mean,
I don't have an
it's
issue with
one
it.
job, right? It's one job where fans are allowed to show up
Mhm.
and they sit in the stands and they pay money to express their opinion towards you. That's absolutely fine. Anything goes in that arena. Chant whatever you want at them, with no racism and stuff, obviously, but you can say whatever you want to express your unhappiness towards the team's performance. Then I even think they were fine to show up to the event and chant generic things towards the management, towards the team, sell the club, Cardinale get out, this management's incompetent, show your balls to a group of players that arrived. That's absolutely fine. I just think that that was the one thing where I was like, Liao, really? You're going for Liao, who's been pretty good over the last few weeks. And that's taking out the additional context of the fact that he seems to accept that things aren't good enough at the moment, taking out the fact that, he's a new dad who's there with his partner. I don't know, man. I just found it a little bit
If the chants were
cringe,
directed
maybe?
towards the family, then yeah, I'd have a problem. But these are public figures. You know what you're getting yourself into when you go into that career. There's paparazzi that attack every
If
type
you
of
think this
celebrity.
is bad in the public, wait till you see what liberals do in the next 4 years in protests in the United States.
It could be worse.
What
The first 4 years look like? Burn down damn cities.
Yeah, if they were saying anything towards Liao's wife, I would have an issue. If they were saying anything towards families, I would have an issue. But she has to know getting into it, okay, this is a public figure. There's going to be people that crowd him when we're out in public, be it fans, ultras, reporters, anyone, and going to an event. It's like a red carpet. There's hordes of people out there for a movie premiere. Granted, they're not chanting "Go fuck yourself." That's a bit different. But this, I don't know. I mean, the culture is just like you said. It's different
that they
than
knew
football.
about it because there are people there before the event starts and like, oh, the ultras are here. They're making phone calls. They're telling the players, hey, leave.
Yeah,
the management went in the back door.
Well, that's the thing that
they all willingly brought their girlfriends or wives or partner, So I don't think it's appropriate, but to AJ's perspective, like they know what they're getting into. They're playing football in Italy. Like the ultras there are extremely important to the culture of the sport. And if the leadership went through a side door, I can almost guarantee that the players were given the opportunity. And if they used that opportunity, it would have looked way worse.
Yeah, I don't know if they were given the opportunity, to be honest. I feel like this management doesn't really do that. I think they said, hey, we set up this photo op, you're going to be there. But we're not,
Maybe.
I think that's how that went down. But regardless, I don't think they were chanting anything that was crossing a line. Bad words are not illegal. How many Madison in the car, someone cuts you off. Do you say, oh, fuck off? It's not that
Not
serious.
anymore because my child repeats everything I say.
Yeah, well, no child was
He
at
is
this
2.
party,
No
so.
one brought their 2-year-old to this event. Okay?
Yeah, exactly. They're all adults
I
outside of
don't think
Liberale
they
and
did.
Camarda. They could. You could say, "Go fuck yourself," whatever.
And Carmada looks like he brought his mother. I don't know if you guys saw, but
Now, if they're
like
saying like, "Go kill yourself," "We hate you," "We're gonna kill you," like anything like that, then yeah, bro,
we've
that's
just
past the
been
line.
demonetized.
Okay, well, sorry guys.
Yeah,
We're not watching this far in, anyways.
No, all right, fair enough. It's about perspectives. I'm interested to know what people think about that, and I'm not necessarily saying that a line was crossed. It just made me feel like it was getting dangerously close to it. But whenever it's not physical, it's just words in it, I suppose. So there is that to factor in. I didn't like the management going side door. I thought that was shameful, cowardly. Do you know? It's not just that. I think it's like, I know what you're saying, Maddie. It would have looked bad if the players and the management all went in a side door and weren't there to face the music. It's the fact that the people who are mostly responsible got in without anything, you know, and they left the players out there. Were the players offered it and they turned it down? We'll probably never know.
They probably
Fair play to
weren't.
the players
if the players didn't want to face it, they're the faces of the team. They could have said something, and management probably would have listened, because if Liao's getting told to fuck off by the ultras, and then management's like, no, you can't go in through a side door, he's gonna be like, screw all of you. I've been through this at Sporting once. Why would I go through it again?
That's a point, actually. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
He literally got attacked. Yeah, so maybe this is all light work for him.
Yeah.
He's
but
probably
also
throwing the pack.
I don't think this helps this situation. The ultras screaming at the players who are clearly not happy with the coach at the moment or the club situation. So it just adds more fuel to the fire.
It's incendiary.
Also
That's the word I used. Yeah,
to do.
It's all just very explosive at the moment, and I'll be interested to see what happens from here, because I think this is the first in a series. I won't be surprised to hear that they're boycotting the Verona. Quickly, Verona preview. 5 minutes. I forgot about this. Scramble. Right, Verona in the table, just above the relegation zone, 1 point above the relegation zone. They haven't drawn a game yet. Wow, 1-5, drawn 0,
they're about to.
lost 11. Yeah, we could be there first. Their last couple of results say it all. They won 3-2 away at Parma, who are also not doing the best, and then they lost 4-1 at home against Empoli. So yeah, they are struggling in and around the relegation places. Got to be 3 points, but it looks like we are going to be potentially without Abraham. See about his injury. Liao fine, RLC out, Pulisic out, won't be risked. Okafor out. So it could be another start for Liberale, probably another start for Chukwueze. The double pivot's not going to change. I'd like to see Teo and Jimenez play as the fullbacks, because this is a must-win game. It's a must-win, so we might as well attack, right? Centre-back pairing probably stays the same after a pretty good performance again. Predictions?
Yeah, so Verona's got only 3 less goals scored than us, which means that we're a relegation side as far as goals go.
Agreed.
But yeah, we'll probably. I don't want to say we'll probably win, but I think we will. I just don't know what the score will be. 2-1.
1. I'm gonna go 1-1 draw.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to win. I think it's going to be 2-2, and I think our equal. It's going to be like the Salernitana game just before Christmas last year. Do you know, when we went into it thinking that might be it for Pioli, he might be done here, and then he wasn't. They kept him beyond Christmas. I think it's going to be a similar thing where we score a late equaliser and it keeps his job for a little bit longer. Would obviously be absolutely no good for us, and I think it would be another horrendous result. But I just don't back this team at the moment. I just don't. Like, we're in a, football, I guess, with coaches, with players, managers, overall performances is about building up credit. They've not built up any credit, and any that they did, they spent very quickly. We're on balance 0 at the moment. In fact, probably a negative balance. Definitely a negative balance. We need a lot of good games in a row until we can start to take these lots seriously. Also, we got this, then we got Roma, the final game of the year, then we're straight into the Super Cup. If we go and get embarrassed first game of the Super Cup by Juve, then there's another thing that's vanished out the window. Or alternatively, we could lose in the final against Inter or whatever. And it's all just like that. That could be very, very important, that period, those games. I think we're going to draw. I think it'll be shit as well. So later this week, because you've probably all seen the headlines about renewals being on the verge of being done, we're going to speak about the 4 renewals that are apparently close to being finalised, go through each one and the effect that it'll have on the budget. And we might even do some questions on that, because we've overrun massively here, but there was just so much to talk about. Appreciate everybody who sent in questions. I might even answer some of them in an audio bulletin or something, just so we get through a few of them. But yeah, tune in later this week for the bonus episode on renewals. We're back early next week. Oh, will we? What are we doing over Christmas? Because 1 week tomorrow is Christmas Day. Maybe we need to talk about that off camera, actually. But I'm just thinking about the schedule. I know that between Christmas and New Year, we're not going to have a normal pod episode. We're going to have the quiz. Lorenzo's doing a quiz. So we're going to be doing that. And then we'll probably just come straight back in for like Super Copper preview or whatever. Oh, that's the door buzzer. That's pretty loud. Yeah, wrap it up here. I've been your host, Ollie Fisher. Find me on Twitter at Ollie Fisher. AJ, cheers for joining.
Yep. See you guys whenever we do come back.
Have a good week, everybody.
Gol! Ancora Teo! È una meraviglia! Il gol di Teo Hernandez da un'area all'altra! È una meraviglia! Senti il mio cuore!